If you're his lawyer right now, what are you telling Deshaun Watson to do?
I'm telling Deshaun Watson, why didn't you listen to me a month ago when I told you that we should settle these claims? Now, I say that only half facetiously. You know, any advice I would give Deshaun Watson would be premised upon my belief that he's innocent of what he's accused of doing. I would not want to represent him if I thought he was guilty of what he did. And I understand that everyone has a right to an attorney, and eventually there will be, if you're prosecuted, a criminal defense lawyer who is there with the mission of forcing the government to prove all elements of all charges beyond a reasonable doubt. We all have a constitutional right to just sit there and say nothing and force the government to prove that we did something above that very high bar. In a civil setting, you don't have those same protections. In a civil setting, it's a much lower standard, and I would not be an effective advocate if I didn't believe in him completely and entirely. And frankly, if I were called in right now to help Deshaun Watson, the first thing I'd want to do is line up a polygraph, and I'd want to make sure that he's telling the truth before I give him any advice and before I attach myself to something that ultimately would affect my reputation, my integrity, if I'm going to stand up and say he didn't do it. That's how far this has gone, with 14 lawsuits and 24 total women who are making these allegations. I would need to be 100% convinced that he's innocent before moving forward. And with each additional lawsuit that emerges, I think it's harder and harder to get to the point where you would believe that nothing happened in every single one of those instances.
As a lawyer, Mike, you see the way Tony Buzbee has approached this, and it is Deshaun Watson being tried in the court of public opinion because of how public Buzbee has been about everything, posting a lot of different things on Instagram, including the letter he got from the NFL saying that they were beginning to investigate. Right, wrong, indifferent, how do you feel about how Buzbee's approached this?
I don't like it. It doesn't mesh with my own personal style, but it also has been very effective in large part because there's been no response in the court of public opinion. It's basically a no-show by Deshaun Watson and whoever is advising him legally and or on a PR front, because it's been Buzbee, unrebutted, getting his message out there, saying things that I don't think are credible. When he calls a press conference to say that this isn't about publicity, during a press conference, right? And when he says it's not about the money, and he tries to convince the average person who's listening that we've only asked for the jurisdictional minimum to get through the courthouse door. Well, that gets you through the courthouse door. And using those words justifies the court having the case in the first place. But when you look at the lawsuits carefully, he's not limiting any potential recovery to $500, which is the jurisdictional minimum. He wants everything he can get, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how the civil justice system works. That's how the powerless gets an even playing field with the powerful. If the powerful wrong the powerless have the ability to secure a verdict that forces the powerful to pay and deters others from engaging in similar behavior. But from a PR standpoint, saying it's not about the money, saying it's not about publicity, those are things that presumably advance the cause. And again, it's worked because it's everything Buzbee said, everything that's in these lawsuits, unchallenged and unrebutted in the court of public opinion. And with so many plaintiffs at this point, it becomes very difficult for the average person who hears about this to say anything other than he's guilty. And again, in a court of public opinion, the jurors are all of us, and they have the right to reach whatever conclusions they want whenever they want.